Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. My guest today is Gale Brewer, the Manhattan Borough President. And I'm glad to have her as the guest because she is the prime example and the direct opposite of what's happening in Washington, D.C. She has spent a lifetime in public service, a lifetime working for the common good, not for the special interests. And she has, I think, Gale, if you come on the screen, you have, I think, a lot of pleasure from the work you've done, don't you?
I do. And, it's, you were in the city council, you know exactly what it's like. The years of service, to be honest with you, I hope are playing a particular role now because we've never seen anything like this. And the fact that we know how the small business services works, how the office of payroll, how the health department, housing and so on, who's there, how they work. Hopefully it helps, in terms of saving people's lives or jobs or small business, because nobody's ever seen anything like this. So the whole world is focused on trying to make government work.
Right. But on a large scale, I mean, for younger people who are thinking of what they're going to do with their lives, that wonderful role of public service, it seems to me the image is being varnished right now by what we see in Washington and in the Senate, as for a matter of fact, that people are not working for the common good, not working to help people. You're working to go directly opposite some of the regulations the Trump administration has in place. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the Trump is the worst of the worst. So, people never liked public service officials to start with. As you know, they don't vote as they should. They're always bad-mouthing. And this makes it even worse. I mean, for young people in school now or in college to hear lies all day long, yeah. I mean, I guess that's what they think, is public service. It's really frightening.
How do we bring back the history? I mean, I always thought that politics being elected official was a noble profession, that we had a goal. How do we change that perception for young people? We're not teaching civics in school, are we? We're not.
Well, there are some groups doing it in the public schools, Generation X, and there are some others. Mm-hmm. But the trouble, as you know, is people know who the president is. They might know who the governor is. They might know who the mayor is. And then young people in particular, they don't seem to know anything else. So all the work that goes on the local level, which, city council, state, etc., congressional, a lot of community work and community organizing goes on. But what they see on the news is what you just described.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, how you get young people involved. They were involved with Bernie Sanders' campaign, I have to say. They really were.
They were.
And some of the others. And I teach with Ruth Messenger. We teach online now at Hunter, and it's very interesting. We have 17, 18 students. They are all Bernie. They don't know if they're going to vote unless Biden talks about free tuition, talks about Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, and talks about their issues. So that's to answer your question specifically for young people, you have to talk about what they're interested in.
I want to show the pandemic has brought right in front of us what the problems are in the world. And I keep going back to Bernie Sanders. I mean, what he's saying, in a way, is answering those problems that we're seeing. What happens to working people, the security or the lack of job security, the housing, the health services, education. All of these things are so affected by the power, I guess, the difference between the wealthy and the poor. I mean, I think what's happening in neighborhoods of Black and brown people, it's just accentuating what we know is wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I believe it's up to 52 people at the MTA have died.
Yeah.
And they are mostly men, but not exclusively, certainly men of color, and they're all working. Mm-hmm. We have obviously students at CUNY, parents are working, many in healthcare. And they come home, scared that they're going to share whatever they picked up, if they have picked up anything at the hospitals. And you hear constantly from the students and from all over the city, who's on the subway, which neighborhoods are getting on the subways. And you know it's Harlem in Manhattan, or it's Brownsville, and they're going to either healthcare, MTA, teaching assistants, custodians, people in the supermarkets. So those are the folks who are being hurt the most, I think, because they can't stay home. And that's a real difference.
As well as the poor, who are the really poor and homeless, for people who are on the streets and the shelters. Can we ever change the world, do you think?
I wonder what this is going to do for that. You know, I mean, it's a worldwide issue. I don't know if it's as divided in other countries in terms of those who are poor and Black and brown versus those who could stay home. I don't know how it is in other countries, but you know, we've been talking constantly about what is it going to look like when this is over. And one of the issues, underlying conditions of health. Who has the diabetes, who has the kidney disease, and who has not had the kind of health care that they need. And that's one division right there. If you look at the South Bronx, I think it's hit the most. And underlying asthma with all the trucks and the traffic. So that's one place where certainly Bernie Sanders talked about healthcare for all. That would be an example. People are afraid to go to the hospital because of the cost.
And what about the housing? The available housing and the quality of the housing and where the housing is. It's you know, it's the longest commute. It's the most difficult to get to work. It's well, you're deteriorating older usually. I mean, has anybody planning a blueprint similar to the green, what do we call it? I'm blocking now. What is
Bloomberg called it Plan NYC, I think that's what he called it.
But AOC has what? The
Green Deal. The Green Deal.
Green Deal. What do we do about this? How do we do this? I mean, you are, I know you're active in the League of Cities. I mean, you're like, I think, I was trying to think what a borough president is like. Are they like a county commissioner?
Yes.
Are you a small city? You know, you don't have the borough, unfortunately, you don't have the budget to control, right?
No,
It would be different.
No.
But you are active in the League of Cities.
Yep.
And you can see that New York is not unique with its problems, right?
Housing is the #1 issue at the National League of Cities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because with this horrific virus, healthcare and food and jobs become more paramount only because we don't have to pay the rent for 90 days. But then when we have to pay the rent in 90 days, that was the determination of the governor, we won't be evicted. There'll be a moratorium on evictions and the housing court is closed. But as soon as it opens in 90 days, just because you know, don't have to pay the money now, in 90 days when you do, who's gonna have the money for the rent? That's #1. Your bigger question, until this issue of this horrific virus, but in addition, housing is always the #1 challenge in the city of New York and at the National League of Cities. Even if you're in a small town in the Midwest, same problem, cost of housing. And we do not have a blueprint. We don't have a housing deal as opposed to a green deal or an affordable housing deal. I think partly because as controversial as the environment is, quadruple that in terms of real estate, right? And so you've got the unions who want to build, you've got the developers who want to make money, and then you have people who need affordable housing. They don't need $6,000 or $25,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that's where we're really, really challenged. It's the #1 problem, at least it was. Now we have health and jobs and food.
Those are cities of different sizes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all housing. They all have the same problem.
Are there thought tanks or people really studying? And there must be, right? But we don't come with any results.
The mayor came up with this MIH, which just basically means inclusionary housing. And what that means is if you're a developer and if you need a change in zoning or land use of any kind, then the city mandates that 25 or 30% of the units are permanently affordable, and then the rest is high income. So it sounds good on paper, MIH. mandatory inclusionary housing. But what really happens is that you end up with an awful lot of affordable no, market yes.
Yeah.
And it's very, very frustrating. And it's not always at what we call AMI, which basically means income, that is truly affordable in terms of the affordable portion. So it's not something that is a panacea of any kind whatsoever.
Let's switch a little bit to education. That's the most localized of the issues that we have. And you have in your borough, I think, do you still have schools that are not racially integrated?
Yes, we have plenty of.
And it reflects the difference in the quality of education?
Yes. I mean, the representing District 3, which is what you did on the Upper West Side, always goes up to 122nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the schools in maybe 100th to 122nd Street are not as good as the schools below. And the district goes all the way to 59th Street. So that's an example. It's not the only one. To the credit of that district, they are trying to severely change the middle school so that 25% of all the middle schools have to have students who didn't score as well, what we call 1 and 2s. Mm. However, the schools above in Harlem are still not as good as they should be, and they're not choice schools for the students who are coming from the lower part of the district. And this is not the only district like this. There are 6 districts in Manhattan, and of course 32 in all 5 boroughs. And the challenge, I know Queens and Brooklyn and many, many places, is exactly the same. I don't know the answer. The trouble, of course, is the charter schools show up where there is an opportunity to siphon off, some of these public school students, and then they end up sometimes being actually more integrated than some of the schools that I just mentioned. So there's no end to the challenge of Department of Education.
And there's no really, I just thinking in comparison, now we have a struggle between the states and the federal and the president, but we also, the school districts is one of the most prized local powers, right?
Yes,
So that would make it much harder.
Yeah, because obviously we have a discussion between the governor and the mayor too about education, right?
Right.
Most recently. But I think, I want to be also clear, there are some great schools in our city, as you know, tremendous high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. And, particularly now, I have a lot of friends who are teaching, and then they also have their kids at home who are also in need of being taught by somebody else. So it couldn't be harder. And I have to say, this is a time when you really thank the teachers for what they're doing. And I understand 50 DOE people who work for DOE have died.
Yeah, I think we have to thank everybody who's working during this thing and really producing for the public. It's a very inspirational kind of a thing when you look around the city and how we're responding, don't you think?
Oh, most definitely. I've been to some of the hospitals, and the Fresh Direct people, to their credit, for free, have been delivering to the New York City Housing Authority. There's no end to the goodness. The goodness is phenomenal. People, volunteering to be supportive. The food banks. You just wish people were dying, but the goodness is everywhere.
I know that I don't even know what to call it. The internet and Wi-Fi. That's a specialty of yours that I have very minimum understanding of. Do you think that in your borough, is it widely distributed?
No, it's very interesting. We just had a meeting with, online, of course, with all the business improvement districts. As you know, these are folks who work with the neighborhood, shoe store, grocery store, and, the owners, that's how it's set up, pay for the cleaning and the policing and so on. So there are, 40 or more in Manhattan. So they all got on the Zoom call. And the business improvement district director in Washington Heights is phenomenal. But guess what? His many, many businesses, and they're all, during good times, they're active, they're involved, they have customers, but what they don't have is internet. And therefore, here we are in a crisis. And so communicating with them is very challenging. You know, normally he'd call them up or he'd go by and say hello, but if you don't have a phone and you're not open, hard
Right.
to do. So I would say that that's one example of a digital divide. And you could also talk to the Board of Elections. Here we have, I believe it's like a third or a fourth. It could be like a third of public school students needed some kind of a device, not at home. And so many of them have no internet in their community. Certainly if you're in a homeless shelter, in many cases, there's no internet. So to the credit of DOE, slowly, they are giving these students internet on the iPad. However, it's slow. I can't say they all have it now, but that's another example of, you know, caught understandably flat-footed, meaning they were not prepared. And so you have young people who are not able to catch up like those at home who already had a computer. That's an example of both education, not having the tools and the internet, and then the businesses uptown. Really, I have to say I was very upset about that. So we will work on it, but those are two good examples of lack of internet.
But I would like to know the relationship between the borough president, the mayor, the members of Congress. How do we all get together to be in the drive to change things?
A good question. I have to say during this horrible virus challenge, there have been lots and lots of virtual discussions with more commissioners and the mayor and the members of Congress than I've ever experienced in person. So I'm hoping that maybe that makes a change. In other words, the mayor comes on once a week to his credit. We've had Schumer, we've had the Gillibrand, etc. And all the commissioners do make themselves very available on a regular basis. It's not a once on. But during the general, what should we be doing about housing? What should we be doing about education and all these great issues? The subway is really going to be in a challenging situation, right? With few customers and no money and still the lifeline of our city. So to answer your question, to get everybody on the same page is hard. I think that the city council, I know they work well with the borough presidents and pretty well with the mayor and his commissioners. He has a good group of commissioners around him, and so does the governor. So sometimes you just end up working less with the egos and more with the people who are doing the work. I have to say, as an example, you know, getting this many issues addressed, there's been no lack of support from the mayor and the governor in terms of their staff. Always answered, always responsive. And we appreciate it.
Yeah.
But how we're all on the same page, Ronnie, I don't know.
I love it when you said it about, and I think that you're known for that, is to not deal with the egos, but to go basically to the different organizations that you're working with, and then the departments that have something to do with those organizations. I think that's your modus, or whatever you call it, I think. So you're not running for mayor?
I am not running for mayor. I like my Manhattan.
Was it never a fascination?
I mean, those are, you know how much Ruth put into it when she ran, Ruth Messenger.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like as you've known people from John Lindsay on who have done the 5-borough run. And you can't start late, you have to start early, and you have to know people in all 5 boroughs. And I know that there's a different mode of operandi in each borough. Manhattan is a little bit looser on control by the Democratic Party, so we're used to doing our own, thing. Right. But I think in other boroughs, it's a very different way of operating. And so I'm happy to stick in Manhattan.
Do you think the city's really governable?
I think it needs to have a different tone in terms of more local input. And I don't say that just as a borough president, but it is very, very complicated. And every borough, I've seen this because I'm very close to the other borough presidents, is incredibly different. It's almost like you're in a different state. So
That's interesting.
yeah, it's not one, it's very, you know, we always hear about Staten Island being an outlier, but so are the problems in Queens. Look at the challenges of those amazing communities in Jackson Heights and Corona.
Right. How many languages spoken in the schools in Jackson Heights?
It's
More
like
than 100, right?
Yeah, more than 100. But look how many of them don't have health insurance, are in, you know, one room and many families, and that's how they're getting sick. So they have huge issues. Manhattan has different ones. We have the cost of housing, which is stripping us of our working families and people who want to work in the city. And we also have in Manhattan the vacancy of the storefronts, which in other boroughs is not such a big problem. So I think to answer your question, it's governable, but it has to be much more localized, I think, in addressing some of these issues. There are obviously citywide issues, housing, education, but there are some that you can't just say, okay, this is a law and we're going to do it like this.
It's so interesting. But have you loved your jobs?
I mean, I love this borough president and city council. They're very different. In the city council, like at 1 o'clock and 10 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you had a hearing, right? Yeah. And so you kind of knew that was your day in terms of your schedule. In borough president, you do need to create something, as you know, Ruth did, and Ronnie and Virginia and Scott and others, in the sense of it doesn't have a format like that. So, you know, you could pick topics you want to work on. We were really fortunate to open the district office on 125th Street storefront. And that, not being a tall office building, that's been a huge asset in terms of people thinking that we care about them. Yeah. And so things like that I did differently, but you have to put your stamp on it. It's not like 10 o'clock is housing and 1 o'clock is health, and you're going to have an oversight on the budget. It's not like that at all.
You're making your own schedule, but you work a lot too with community boards.
Yes, we work a lot with the community boards. You got 12 of them in Manhattan. I think we've taken them to another level. Scott Stringer started. We have each and every one of them have a Zoom package. So they've been having all of their meetings online way before any other borough. Yeah. And of course, we're trying to appoint people who are going to stay there and work in their communities.
That's really the road down to the local blocks, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's a very different city in the 5 boroughs. Each one has its own way of operating. At the community boards, you can really see it.
When I was in the council, I always felt that I was representing the city and the other members from the boroughs were more suburban, and that was more their interest in suburban areas. This was, it's now, I think, many years ago, actually. Seems like yesterday.
I don't know that it's, you know, has changed as much as you think. Obviously, Brooklyn has gotten much denser, and if you look at Long Island City, you can't believe all those tall buildings. Yeah. But you still have areas that are certainly not as dense as Manhattan and not as, you know, completely different. I mean, even just the theater district and the culture. I mean, we have a gazillion times more of cultural organizations, but don't necessarily get the funding for them. So that's just one example. And economic engine is still Manhattan. That's where the tourists are hopefully going to return to.
You're known for, and I'm going to come back to the beginning, you're known for the number of interns you have working in your different offices, even when you were the elected official, but were a staff person for the elected official. Yeah. Do you maintain relationships with them? And how many of them would you say have been inspired to go into government?
Interesting. I hope a lot. And I know that in the borough president during last summer, we had 129 interns. So I think we haven't stopped the great excitement of having them arrive and fill the office with a whole new dynamic enthusiasm. But in terms of the reason that a lot of them go into public service, obviously they have an interest to start with. I mean, we're not, you know, the bio center. They are interested in public service, but they also hear about jobs in the summer or year-long internship. So some of them are working in other elected officials because you hear so-and-so needs a scheduler, so-and-so needs a transportation expert. It's a good place to learn about entry-level jobs that then, as how I started and how you learn, and then you figure out what your super interest is.
I just want to say, I hope that they've learned from you and that they will be able to serve their public as well as you have. So thank you so much for joining me. And it's our first time on Zoom, so I think and hope it went very well. Thank you, Gale.
Thank you, Ronnie Eldridge, for all of your service. And we all learn a lot from you. And it's great to see you over Zoom.